Konnichiwa.
Welcome to the Jandals in Japan podcast.
Hey, Catherine. How you doing?
Hi, Jane. Konnichiwa. I'm cool. Yeah, going very fine. Yeah.
Very good. It's beautiful weather here today in Fukushima. What
Very
have we
nice.
got for this episode?
Wow, it's just so exciting now. I think, you were seeing all the borders open in both of our countries, right? New Zealand and Japan. And it's just been very exciting with New Zealand opening up beginning of May, which was cool. Letting people in from Japan. Obviously, they have to be fully vaccinated and they have to take the tests when they arrive every 2 to 5 days and report them to the Ministry of Health. But that's really great to see. And we hope that also allows people to be coming through to Japan, exporters who want to be here and build new relationships and also just meet up with the people who they haven't met before in person. That's just great news, really great news.
Yeah, I feel like a whole layer of worry has been removed by this sort of loosening of the borders. Now we can travel more easily if we need to and we need to. So very grateful for that and looking forward to seeing some tourists arriving.
Yes,
hopefully.
It's been so exciting in the last little while, and we have heard that the Japan government is actually opening up a trial basis for tourists to come to Japan. So that's pretty exciting. Although it's pretty limited, it is at least a start, bringing in group tours with their shared itineraries coming in. So it's only from certain countries, Australia, Singapore being part of those. And if it goes very well, we hope to see a few more of our family and friends here.
Yes. We're looking forward to having more people being able to visit us here in Japan. And, summer is just around the corner and I'm sort of looking at the mask wearing situation in Japan. And I'm pleased to see that they are encouraging people to not necessarily be masked outdoors if you can maintain social distance. Just the danger of heat stroke is incredible in Japan anyway during summer. So, I'm really hoping that we'll be able to walk around a little bit more freely outdoors, especially in Tokyo, where it's kind of expected that you would wear a mask, even just walking down the street.
Oh, very much so. And the humidity is increasing. Getting into the later stages of May, it really does start to get humid and you feel it under your mask. And so now I've just seen a few people lately walking around with the mask pulled down as they're walking outside, which is interesting. It feels a little weird. Strangely, it feels weird to do it because we've just been so used to it, but it's a good thing.
So on that cheerful note,
speaking of summer,
heat, barbecues, things you put on the barbecue.
Things you put on the barbecue, such as New Zealand meat. Yes. And we can't wait to bring this episode of Makoto Kinjo, who we think is the guru of New Zealand lamb and beef meat in Japan. He's really helping consumers here understand how to cook beef, how to cook lamb at home. He's introduced so many ways to do that. I just don't want to give away all of it right now because we're just about to get into the episode.
We hope you enjoyed this chat with Kinjo-san.
Let's get into it.
Kia ora. Welcome to Jandals in Japan. Kinjo-san.
Kinjo-san, hi.
How are you?
Good to have you on the show. Someone dialing in from Auckland today. But before we get started, we have a special question for you. A or B, which do you prefer? So if you're going to have yakitori, are you shio or tare?
Definitely shio.
Whoa, why?
So that I can enjoy the real flavor of the chicken.
I love that answer. I'm a shio girl as well. I love the shio. I love the taste of the tingle on my tongue with the salt.
Yeah, I'm shio too. Yeah, I love a bit of salt and like you say, enjoying the actual flavor of the whatever it is you happen to be eating. So meat is kind of a great topic for us today, isn't it, Catherine?
It is, because Kinjo-san is the man of meat, shall we say. Makoto Meat Kinjo could almost be your name. And we're going to get right into that because we wanted to have you on the show as one of our star guests because you've been in this New Zealand food and beverage industry, mostly food industry, right, for 37 years. You've worked mainly in the field of sales and marketing for New Zealand meat products from New Zealand into Japan, shall we say. You've been really deeply engaged in getting especially New Zealand beef and lamb into Japan for 20 years as the president of ANZCO Foods, and you launched Wakanui, a grill dining as well in Tokyo in 2011. And that was a really great way of promoting ANZCO Foods beef and lamb products into Japan, especially into Tokyo. So we thought it was really important to have you come on and be a guest and tell us some of your insights so that listeners can learn from you to be a successful Jandal in Japan. So welcome, Kinjo-san.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Jane.
So tell us about your inspiration for, setting up New Zealand business in Japan. You could have chosen other countries. Tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got New Zealand into Japan.
There's two parts to it. And the first part is about how I got involved with New Zealand. I was born in Tokyo, I was raised in Japan. I was given an opportunity to study as an exchange student when I was 16. So that was my first encounter with New Zealand. It wasn't by my choice, it was my father's choice, because back then I didn't know anything about New Zealand. All I knew about New Zealand was All Blacks and a sheep. But my father told me that if I'm to go on the exchange program, it should be New Zealand. I was there for a year. I was very fortunate to be assigned to a host family in Christchurch. As a result of that, I had a fantastic time. I guess that experience made me want to come back to New Zealand and to be involved in New Zealand in my career. The second part is all about food business. For a long time, even I was a teenager, I was determined that I'll be involved in the trading business around food. And because of my background, it happened to be New Zealand and Japan. And my host family in Christchurch, they were gourmet. Even by, today's standards, they were extreme gourmet. They exposed me to all the fine cuisines of New Zealand. So I was enjoying the bluff oysters when I was 16 as an exchange student.
Lucky you.
So, in 1980, that's quite amazing.
Kaikoura, and they said, this is the best crayfish. Oh, this is the best power. All the shellfish she made, all the seafood dish, and all the meat dish, and all the vegetables and the fruits from New Zealand she exposed me to. So that really got me going to believe that this country has got huge potential.
Serendipity to land in a host family that was endowed with all of that for you. It's almost like it's destiny.
It was a destiny.
Wow. Are you still in touch with them?
Yes, they're part of my family.
Wow. And you've got a good connection, though, too, to Okinawa as well, right?
Well, yes. Well, my parents are from Okinawa, my father in particular. So I have very Okinawan blood in me. Although I have only lived there for 5 years, I've got more involved in Okinawan side in more recent times. And that led to me becoming the president of Japan New Zealand Society. And we hosted New Zealand ambassador visits to Okinawa a few times.
It's lovely, right? I think you had a little bit of a push there from Ian Kennedy. Okinawa president of New Zealand Japan Society became you. That's really fabulous story. Right. And it's lovely how your roots come back to you, right? Yes. We think we move away, but it stays within our DNA. That's I think that's really amazing.
And it so happened that the New Zealand and Okinawa had a very strong relationship way back. It was for the time when I was living in Okinawa as a 7-8 years old. Back then, Okinawa was able to import beef into the country because it was outside the Japanese regime. And so it happened that the beef that we were exposed to when we were young was a New Zealand beef. So for decades, that the New Zealand beef trade with Okinawa continued and flourished. So when I came back to the meat business, I was reintroduced to that the fact, and then the leverage that to build stronger business relationship with the ANZCO Foods as a meat company and with the Okinawa market.
Wow. Well, you are Japan meat import specialist. What does that entail?
Well, I don't consider myself as a meat expert. If anything, I probably know about meat less than most of the people, but I approach this business from more marketing perspective. Where New Zealand had a range of products that got a huge potential, but underrated for one reason or another. When I saw the product like New Zealand lamb or New Zealand grass-fed beef or like silver ocean beef, there were a lot more we could do and we expand the market had we approached the marketing properly. Unfortunately, meat industry tends to be very conservative. They're very commodity oriented and they're very inward looking. Even today, there's little understanding of branding and marketing. So even before I joined Ansco, I had always thought this product has a huge potential, but has not been marketed properly. One of the things that got me excited about joining Ansco was then I would be in a position to make it to a big business in Japan, and that's what happened. I guess the lamb's one thing, beef is another thing, but there are a number of products, even beyond that, had got potential but had not been properly marketed. The potential has not been properly assessed and uncovered. And with the right marketing approach, right branding, right promotion, and putting together the pieces so that products can be well distributed within the country, then there's an opportunity for any different companies. Not all products are like that. Not all businesses are like that. But there are ones that I think the potential has not been properly recognized.
A lot of products that come through are put into retail, but you went to the extent of setting up a restaurant. Was that really critical and important to do for showcasing, to actually market properly?
Yeah. Go back 20 years ago when I first joined Ansco, the New Zealand lamb was invisible in the retail scene. So the first job is to make sure the products are on the shelf, products are promoted properly, and entice customers, consumers to come and try it. So we conducted the consumer research. This is probably for this company for the first time. What we wanted to find out was product with this potential, why hadn't Japanese consumer use it? Or why do people say it's the smelling meat? The research gave us an answer that general consumer think the lamb that has a very strong smell. 2, they don't know how to cook it. 3, they said they don't see it on the retail shelves. So in order to grow the market, we have to address those 3 points. We run a PR campaigns to properly communicate to consumers what New Zealand lamb is about. Environmental raised, how it's raised, how it's recognized in Europe, America, and other markets, that it is actually a premium meat and not a cheap alternative, as was the case in Hokkaido. Sheep meat was a cheaper alternative to pork and beef. So we had to change that, the mindset. So we went through the exercise and we were very successful in the change in the consumer perception towards lamb. At the same time, we made sure we have the sales team together to push the lamb on the retail shelves. And we also made sure that these were all branded as Ansco product. So behind all of that is a promotional activity that's showing how to cook. We wanted to make sure that we run a promotion of the meat without us spending money like we do at the retail premises. So one of the idea was to set up a restaurant, to offer them the best lamb, best beef, let them come and let them assess and then pay for it, and they go out and talk about it and bring other friends. So that's the start of Wakani concept. It was a way of promoting a product. It so happened that it went ballistic, and the growth rate was enormous. And as a result, we got more listing with the retailers and more listing with the restaurants. So that's the start of the Wakani concept.
That's a really long-term vision to have, that you would set up a restaurant in order to educate people about your products. And it doesn't, and with the end game being that people will go and find the products on the shelves and try and cook them in their own homes and become a regular customer in that way as well. So how do people go about finding their first customer or their first distributor if they were wanting to bring their own product into Japan?
It's case by case. When I first built the ice cream business in Japan, in 1990, the beef market and ice cream market was liberalized in Japan. So Japan, for the first time, was able to import ice cream. And I was working at what is then, and what is on Tip Top Ice Cream. New Zealand, of course, being the most competitive country to produce their dairy products, even back then. So I saw the opportunity to take Tip Top Ice Cream to this market. First thing, hardcore. Whether it's a dairy company, confectionery company, or what company, or retailers, I made a hard call and say, this is us, this is the product that we come and talk to and present you what we can offer. So when I was working What is time, What is making tomato paste in Hastings, What is wanted to introduce that to the Japanese market. I pick up the phone, who do I call? Kagome.
Really?
Kagome purchase in person, say, hey, we have tomato paste from New Zealand. Can I come and talk to you?
So that's a cold call. You didn't know them.
It's cold, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Early day, there were many cold calls. Yeah. When I first introduced the pet food into the country, it was that again.
Good on you.
Pet food. You've done it all. Ice cream, pet food.
Or retailers, I pick the phone. Hey, this is how we go. Can I see you?
Is that just being bold back then? Is cold calling something that a New Zealander should do now? I've heard some New Zealanders say they don't have to worry about any of that. And I think maybe Jason was one of our earlier guests who said that you don't have to really worry about that as a New Zealander. You can be a bit more bold. What do you think about the cold calling in these days and age?
It's a hard game back then. And they would not come to you. We had to go and find end users or distributors for it. So things may have changed. But again, it's a case by case. There are products probably you take different approach these days.
Wow. I mean, you could give it a try. What's the harm? I guess.
Exactly.
But, there might be a better way. So if you were writing that chapter in a book about market entry into Japan, what would you say would be your do's and don'ts there?
I guess don't assume that what worked in New Zealand worked in Japan, because you have completely different set of competitors, challenges, and consumers with a totally different understanding of values of many things. What worked in New Zealand as a result of clever marketing may not necessarily work in Japan, because branding and a story alone is not going to convince consumer that your product is better than others, or you should pay this price over other products. You have to have unique brand proposition, but solid product advantage. This market does not tolerate anything that is substandard. So what may have worked in New Zealand may not necessarily be recognized as a high quality product in Japan. So unless you are absolutely confident about your product and then the value that this is offering, just spending money on marketing or just running a unique campaign, it's not going to work. At the same time, the market is so vast compared to New Zealand. So thinking that they can do a little bit of marketing and activities and then to reach the consumer, well, it's not going to happen, because the market is so vast that whatever the money you have to spend on promotion or even creating a website or YouTube, it's not going to reach the target audience that you want to reach. So you have to think very hard about how we're going to put together your communication the program so that you reach the right person and then build the audience that will follow your brand and the product. It's hard to imagine for some New Zealand companies.
So that was your don'ts. Any do's?
Do be confident to the point that you would change the status quo over a market or industry. And of course, that's what I did with meat business. People talk about unique Japanese culture. It's not unique Japanese culture. It's conservatism of a certain industry that you'll come against, and you need to break that to make a breakthrough. And I always believe in Kiwi ingenuity. Yeah, so you come up with a great idea and do things differently from the conventional players.
Love it. Is there anything that you're seeing coming up in the future? Any trends that you've spotted?
I've been in New Zealand for a month, and in everyday life, the e-commerce in Japan is all around you. They can do anything, whether it's a frozen product, it's a chilled product, or whatever. Or if you place an order, things will be on your door half an hour later, and all sorts of things are happening in Japan. It's very hard to imagine back in New Zealand because physical distribution service is not there. Whereas the Yamato will bring a frozen product to Hokkaido, and then when the barrel is not there, they'll leave a note, come back next day, come back the following day until you pick it up. The retail business in Japan and New Zealand have gone a different way. Everything can be purchased and delivered online. And that part is going much faster. Whereas in New Zealand, I think real shops still there and people go out and purchase. So there may be some opportunities that the Kiwi companies are missing in leveraging the advancement of e-commerce and online business.
Interesting. E-commerce, I think that's coming through as a trend that we're hearing from other people who we've talked to on the podcast. So I think you call out a really distinct point there with bricks and mortar versus e-commerce. And exactly, so I know you've also got some exciting news on your end with another business that you're involved in Japan, another restaurant business, and also tell us about this other direct import that you're doing. We'd love to hear about that.
I stepped down as a president of ANZCO 2 years ago. I set up a new company, Ambrosia, and its mission is to discover products that are not known, unrecognized, and to dig deeper into the real value of the product and introduce to the Japanese consumers. Currently, I'm working on 3 products. One is vintage beef. By definition, is the cows more older than 5 years old, and then refed and finished, which has a flavor profile of something totally different from the conventional beef that's available now. It's a style of beef that was developed in Europe. It's a very specialized type of beef. So trialing that in New Zealand for the last 2 years, and that's going to go on sales online, and also this will be listed at the National Supermarket and Nissin shortly. I also developed a type of sheep meat that is quite unique to what everybody's used to. That is a pure Suffolk hogget. And again, the type of sheep meat that has deeper meat flavor, but tender, and it's now been well recognized even in the UK and in Europe as the sheep meat that goes above lamb. So, and again, that's going on the retail shelves shortly. And third thing I'm working on is completely opposite. That is a milk-fed lamb. I've been working with Spring Sheep, which was founded by Scotty Chapman. And last year when I saw him, I discovered that he has this milk-fed lamb. And again, that's going to be going on the shelves shortly. So
that's super exciting.
Small progress. Yeah.
Yeah, super. I think I was at Matakana restaurant where I think you're profiling the hogget.
Yes.
Right. Last week with a group of New Zealanders, and we all went for the hogget, and it was super delicious. So tender. I don't think we had that image of it either because there was either lamb or mutton, but the hogget is something quite unique, and it was absolutely wonderful. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on the shelves, and So I guess in the same way, Matakana is going to be the kind of place where you market that product and perhaps the milk-fed lamb as well.
That's the idea. But I want to broaden the user base of these products. So it won't be confined to Matakana. Matakana will be the flagship, but I shall look after the Wakanui, so I have to take care of those. But really, potentially they're out there in a much wider base.
So if anyone is sort of thinking, oh, well, my product might be a great fit with you, can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure.
Someone maybe in the farming industry in New Zealand or wherever.
Yes,
yeah, it could be a
certainly.
Great partnership.
No, I'm still keen to find what's new out there, what's unique. I'm sure I only knew the scratch of the surface but the farmers out there doing some great things and, believing in and valuing certain things and then doing diligently. And these are sort of things I want to uncover and introduce to the market.
Are there any other sort of gold mines or opportunities for Kiwi businesses, perhaps in the way that Kiwis do business? Is there ways to collaborate across Kiwi businesses? For example, two products working together.
Certainly there is an opportunity for that. Although different products, different market, different distribution network, different buyers to deal with. But if there are, say, the range of food products that has got similar sort of philosophy in terms of the value proposition, and then you can cluster them together and promote in a way that is be beneficial to all of us in an efficient way.
Fabulous. Well, are there any other activities or promotions that you would like to share with us, personal or professional?
We talked about vintage beef and the hogget, but these products will be branded under McKinsey.
What's that?
And it's spelled Makinzie.
Makinzie.
Yeah, Makoto Kinjo from New Zealand. Okay, that's
beautiful.
What we're bringing.
It's a play upon words on your name.
That's right.
And so should we see those sometime in May, perhaps?
Yes.
Great.
We're putting together point of sales materials and that.
Ooh, looking forward to it. Gosh, that sounds really exciting. Anything else?
There is another restaurant after opening Matakana, Azabu, you being EWE.
EWE.
And it's a Genghis Khan barbecue restaurant. And the theme of that is we only serve you there. You lamb, you hogget, you mutton.
You customers, women customers only? No. So only, hang on. So what is a ewe for all of us again? It's a female sheep.
Female sheep.
Sheep, that's right.
Of any age.
Well, female sheep will have the hogget, the Suffolk hogget is a ewe. It's a ewe hogget. And the mutton that I brought in, again, it's a ewe mutton. And the bit around the concept of eating quality of female sheep is far superior to male sheep.
Well,
and male sheep only could consume as a lamb, because anything older than 6 or 8 months, the lamb will start to produce very distinct flavor that people find also offensive. So I'm developing the meat product around female sheep and the female cows.
Interesting. That's so exciting. Is that shop location determined yet? Somewhere in Azabu?
It's already there. It's opened in March. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jane, next time you're in Tokyo, we'll have to go and have a little look and see. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Kinjo-san, this has been so exciting talking with you. We've really enjoyed showcasing you as what we would call a Jandal in Japan. You are a New Zealand lover, Japanese person who has just got such a depth of history with New Zealand, and you're obviously very, very much trying to bring the countries closer and closer together and do more and more. We're really thankful to you for giving us your tips and stories and showing us how a Kiwi and how a Japanese person who loves everything Kiwi can bring a really great business to Japan.
My pleasure, and thank you for the invitation. I hope that we of some use to some people. And if anybody wants to have a further discussion about the business potentials and marketing, I'm always available.
That's very generous. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Wow, that was such a fun episode with Kinjo-san. What a lovely chap he is. It sounds like he's really making the most of his connections between Japan and New Zealand and leveraging all of that knowledge. What was some of your takeaways from our discussion with him today?
Yeah, so much delight in there. There were so many things to pull out, but I really liked him talking about his do's and don'ts first up, not assuming that New Zealand and Japan are going to be the same and this product's going to do the same. I think a lot of people move beyond that these days to know that it's going to be kind of different. But if it's still coming up for Kinjo-san as a don't, I think it might still be a barrier to people, New Zealanders coming in, to think it's going to be the same. And then he talked about not standing for substandard.
Yeah, he's really hot on the quality, right?
So true. Yeah. Quality is tops. And we've heard lots of stories about damaged boxes, a little bit ripped here and there, or bent, or mangled in some way, that they will just not sell in Japan. So, having that right standard of quality is important. And then, it's a vast market here. So being really, really aware of that it's not just small New Zealand.
It's not 3 supermarket chains. There's
so many things here, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what he talked about too with his new products. We've got lamb. Everyone knows lamb now. He flipped the whole thinking about lamb not being smelly, etc. But he's not even stopping at that. There's these new products that he's doing. So innovating, continue to innovate and disrupt again. Vintage beef, milk-fed lamb. Wow. Those are going to be really amazing things that are going to hit the market here too. So he's constantly innovating.
Yes. And Japanese people love something new. They're always out for the new thing. What's the new thing? Learning about new products. So that's really great that he's finding those products within New Zealand and helping it sounds like helping producers who he thinks have the great quality product to bring their stuff to the market. So I was really happy to hear that he mentioned the thing about the frozen food delivery. That is so huge in Japan, that you can send frozen anything all over Japan and it will arrive frozen in perfect condition. And due to COVID, this is becoming something that people are actually ordering more frozen foods online, because you can enjoy restaurant quality whatever in your own home. So we did that during COVID. We ordered beautiful scallops and yakiniku, like barbecued meat, and also sashimi, things that we would defrost ourselves, cut up, eat. So delicious, and at a fraction of the cost of having it in a restaurant.
Right.
It's a real trend here in Japan.
Sure is.
To order online from frozen food. So it doesn't mean that your fresh produce won't be saleable in Japan. If you can freeze it, you can sell it.
Exactly. I think that's probably a difference of the thinking as well. You might think, how can we deliver this product in New Zealand? There's not a great network for delivery, but it's flip it on that, right? Because in Japan, the delivery service, Yamato, Sagawa, all of those are super amazing. And when they redeliver on time. And so I think that's probably a different thing for New Zealanders to think about, is that the delivery service here is perfect. How can you use that with your product?
Yeah.
Wow, Kinjo-san, amazing things there, right? Be visible, be confident, market yourself properly. There was just so many things to pull out of there. What an enjoyable episode that was.
It was great. Can't wait to go to Matakana again. Last time I was there, it was amazing. And I remember they brought out this lamb chop. Just the one lamb chop. And I was like, where's the rest of it? But it was just it was
a teaser.
It was a teaser, right? And it was the perfect lamb chop. It was so amazing. So if you're in around Tokyo, definitely jump into Matakana or Wakanui, or the new one he mentioned as well. Is it?
Azabewe. Azabewe. Azabewe.
Check out those restaurants. The food is amazing at all of them. Well, we will be back again with another wonderful episode for you all again soon. Keep listening. Thank you so much. We'd love to hear from you. Give us your reviews and find us on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yeah, and share this episode with somebody who is a potential Jandal in Japan, or is already here and might like to hear the tips that were given away today. Thanks, everyone.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
listening. Make sure you check out our guests' links in the show notes.
This podcast is brought to you today by Catherine O'Connell Law and Pod Launch with Jane. If you have a great story you think should be on the show, come and find us on LinkedIn or Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.
Mata ne!